All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to the arcade. And I know, this is not Ninja Gaiden 4 gameplay, but I wanted to post my own gameplay for one. And on top of that, what you're seeing in the background is actually a boss fight from Silk Song that took anywhere from 20 to 30 tries on stream yesterday, which I streamed on my main channel, but I couldn't stream here because YouTube didn't allow it for whatever reason. So I'm going to have to look more into that. But without further ado, I think the gameplay in the background kind of matches the subject matter that we're going to be talking about, even though it's about a different game, in this case, Ninja Gaiden 4. So without further ado, let's get into it. Because with Ninja Gaiden 4, there's been a lot of concerns within the Ninja Gaiden community about its difficulty. I mean, granted, there's a multitude of different concerns, but for the sake of this video and the topic of this video, we're just going to focus on the difficulty. So with that being said, the game is going to be coming out soon. It's going to be coming out in October. So with that being said, one of the things that have been revealed by the developers is that you're when you pick a difficulty level, for instance, you're going to be you don't have to be locked into it, right? So you can actually change the difficulty on the fly. If you think it's too easy, you can adjust it higher, or if you think it's too hard, you can adjust it lower. And on hero difficulty as well, which is, I believe, the easiest, you actually have the ability to in the options or settings menu or whatnot, turn on or off the certain things that make the game easier for the player. For instance, auto dodge or auto block or something like that, as well as maybe a couple of other things here and there. So these are things that are, designed for new players that never really either gotten into Ninja Gaiden, or maybe perhaps the old school games were too difficult or whatnot, and things were a little too easy, too difficult to understand or whatever. And then obviously you've got things, I think, like a training mode as well. So I really am all for giving the player the tools to get better regardless of their skill level. So I think that's definitely a plus. However, the question is that methodology going to be applied to the harder difficulty levels, such as hard, or of course the infamous / famous Master Ninja, right? Because if you played Ninja Gaiden Black, and if you played Ninja Gaiden 2, the original, the vanilla version, right, for the 360, which I actually in more recent times actually downloaded on my Xbox Series X because it was still in the store, and it may still be in the store, whatnot. So I did have it on the 360 originally as well when I had the 360. But the thing is this, like the difficulty levels, especially for Master Ninja difficulty on the original games, was something else to say the least, right? And it's kind of like a rite of passage, right? And it's actually part of the Ninja Gaiden tradition. And on top of that, even if you go back to the regular Nintendo versions of the games, like which I actually had one of them on my regular Nintendo, those games were always difficult. They were always difficult, but just like the gameplay you're seeing in the background here, they're not out of reach, right? They're difficult, but they're not impossible. But there's a rite of passage that you kind of have to go through in order to legitimately be able to say that, hey, I beat Ninja Gaiden, 2 on Master Ninja difficulty, right? I remember even Tomonobu Itagaki, when Ninja Gaiden 2 first came out, I read somewhere or heard somewhere that, like, he said that like under 1,000 people are going, not even 1,000 people are going to be able to beat the game on Master Ninja difficulty. So it was by design that the game itself would be difficult, right? By design, but not impossible, but by design. So it really did test those people that really took their skill seriously. And there's a saying that's been said over the years, before there were Souls-like games, there was Ninja Gaiden, right? So the fact that you're able to kind of change and not be locked into a difficulty setting is kind of something that's worrying a lot of players. Now, I don't know if that's just going to be limited to hero and normal difficulty, and then it's going to be on hard and Master Ninja to where you're not going to be able to change it. I hope that's the case, because again, when you're talking about hard, and especially when you're talking about Master Ninja difficulty, there's kind of this tradition, so to speak. And let's not mention the fact that you already have options in terms of how you can customize the game to your experience on the lower difficulty levels, right? So, and I believe there's also going to be a training mode. So you put all these things together, it's like the game is giving you all the tools you need in order to get better. And there's even these trials, that you're going to be able to do that are like even like harder, and you're going to have to sacrifice like 25% of your health if you want even bigger rewards, as opposed to not sacrificing any portion of your health, right? So I love options. Again, as a player who loves options and that absolutely believes that options should be a thing for customizable experience in every single game across the board, I'm with that. But at the same time, I'm also one of those people that believes that it should be limited. When you're talking about Master Ninja difficulty, especially that one, out of all the difficulties, I think that it's like, hey, here it is. Once you choose it, you're locked. You can't make the game easier or whatnot. You can't activate auto blocking or auto dodging or something like that. You have to take it how it is. If you're attempting this difficulty level, you're obviously not new to Ninja Gaiden, so you got to take it how it is. Good luck, right? So, and again, not every single game out there, like the Souls-like, or even this game here, Silksong, there's no difficulty setting. You just kind of have to take the game as it is, and that's as simple as that. And every single time I face this boss that you're looking at here in the gameplay, you know, it was a very satisfying experience, and it was part of the gameplay experience to get closer, right? Like you get closer and closer every single time, or the more often you do it, and it's a very satisfying experience to get to the other side. And that's that again, the same thing with Souls-like games, you know, like Elden Ring in particular. A lot of people got that game, and a lot of people that were beginners got that game and didn't quite know what they were into. But there was always the option to obviously back off and to make yourself more powerful, but you still had to get familiar with how the bosses played, right? So you had to face bosses regularly and repeatedly in order for you to understand their patterns. You know, maybe you didn't do something right previously, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, if you weren't as powerful as you needed to be, you had the option to go around and to explore, et cetera, right? Which is perfectly fine. But again, there was no customizing your difficulty or anything like that. There was no to my knowledge, there's no difficulty setting in Elden Ring. It's like, this is the game, you play it as it is, good luck, right? So, I mean, granted, the developers from Soft obviously gave the players the ability to, like, you know, be able to explore the world and make themselves more popular to make the boss fight, you know, a little bit easier in that sense, because you'd be more powerful, because you'd be dealing more damage. Maybe you'd be dodging attacks faster. Maybe your stamina would replenish faster, et cetera, et cetera. That's fine. But you were still facing that same boss, right? You were still facing that same boss. You still had to understand how that boss worked. And even then, for a lot of players, especially new players, those boss fights were still close, relatively close, even though they went back and made themselves a little bit more powerful or whatnot. So again, for every single game like this, there's kind of like a rite of passage, and I think that tradition needs to stay. You know, I'm hoping that Master Ninja difficulty isn't significantly easier than what it was in Ninja Gaiden 2 or Ninja Gaiden Black. I hope that it stays, you know, within tradition, to where even the most hardcore Ninja Gaiden fans will be satisfied and challenged with that as well. So I'm hoping this will be the case. You know, I love the fact that there's options in terms of making players get better. But one of the things that I've, in closing here, as I get close to the end here, one of the things that I am a little bit concerned about was, like, I've seen interviews and videos about the game and stuff like that, and there's even a content creator that made a compilation of information from all the different videos of the information that's been revealed from people that played the game, as well as some things from developers here and there. And one of the things that have been mentioned that kind of has me a little bit concerned is the fact that, one person was asked, did you play the game on Master Ninja difficulty? And he's like, no, you give me too much credit. You know, you have to be very defensive in that. And I'm paraphrasing, and I'm thinking to myself, defensive, does that mean that in Master Ninja difficulty, the game at least gives you the option to just sit there and block and dodge or something like that? Because if you're just being defensive in a Ninja Gaiden game on the hardest difficulty level, you're not going to survive. You know, the game is going to throw everything in the book and then some, everything in the kitchen sink at you. You can't just sit there and block. You really can't. Sure, you can block and you can dodge and stuff like that. It's fine, but it's like, you still have to use simultaneously on the hardest difficulty level. You still have to use all the skills that you've learned, everything in your arsenal, every trick in the book that you've learned along the way, because you know damn well that the game itself is going to do it. Because if you're just being defensive, guess what? You're going to pay the price. Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 2 especially were definitely known for that. It's like the game will punish you. You have to, your offense is also simultaneously your best defense. Your movement, the same thing. You have to think so many different ways and so many different angles at the same time when you're attempting that level of difficulty. So that's one thing that kind of has me worried, but at the same time, it could absolutely be nothing, right? It could be just a saying or whatnot. So we'll see. It all depends on how you view a defensive play style. You know what I'm saying? So there's that as well, because you do have the ability to kind of just distance yourself from enemies, dodge around. There's always that, of course. But again, the game is notorious for literally like throwing everything in the kitchen sink at you. So that doesn't always work. So hopefully there's not something in the game that could be exploited to the point to where it just to where it breaks the game, to where it's like, hey, anybody can beat Master Ninja difficulty. You just have to, all you have to do is this, because in previous games, in particular for Ninja Gaiden 2 Vanilla and Ninja Gaiden Black, there was no guarantee that you would beat Master Ninja difficulty. That's just the way it works. You know, there's no guarantee, and that's what makes Master Ninja difficulty Master Ninja difficulty. And I personally think that that should remain intact. So with that being said, I want to know in the comments section in terms of what you guys think. Do you guys think that that should be the case, or do you think things should be made easier, or in my opinion, I think they're trying to get both in this game. So I personally think things should be just as hard as they've always been. But at the same time, for people that are playing on easy or normal, fine, give them options, give them customizable options. But when you're talking about hard and Master Ninja, I think things need to stay within tradition, in my opinion. So with that being said, I want to know in the comment section in terms of what you think. And as always, I like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.